They were somewhat involved with like the Minutemen and Black Flag, and it was just this kind of mysterious kind of West Coast thing. I mean, for me, living on the East Coast, getting this information about these weird bands at the time, they were the weirdest. Obviously, they were just like with the name like the Meat Puppets. It was just, what's going on? And then I heard that they were coming out to play in New York. They were in their van, just rambling across country, playing little donut shops and things. And they were playing at this little folk club in New York City called Folk City, Garrity's Folk City, which was famous for where Bob Dylan had his first early gigs. And I got a call from somebody, I forget who, I think somebody who was booking the club at the time. And Sonic Youth had been around just for a couple of years, and we were just trying to like get a gig any time we could, but it was very difficult. But we got a call from this one guy booking Folk City. And he said, would you like to play the Meat Puppets? And I was like completely like super excited. I made a flyer. I was working at a Xerox store and I made this flyer and everything. I couldn't wait to sort of play this gig with the Meat Puppets. And so I get to Folk City that day. We set our stuff up and we kind of sound check to some degree, and it's really good. Kurt and Chris, Derek were downstairs in this little basement dressing room thing, and they just had long hair, and they just sort of had these like ripped up kind of shirts, and they were just sitting there, and they were just like smoking, and they were just like really friendly, and they were just like and they're just talking about traveling cross country, and I had yet to really travel cross country. We did a few little spurt things, but nothing like these vagabonds in this band. And they're like, and then they split. And so we did our sound check, and it was like time for the Meat Puppets to do their sound check. And I was like, well, I wonder where they are. I was like, why don't they do a sound check? They better do one, because that's what you do. And I went out into the street, and their van was there, and they were just like sitting in it, and it was just like packed full of like amps and guitars and like just clothes, just piles of clothes, and they were just sitting in there. And I kind of knocked on the window, and they rolled it down, and I said, you guys should sound check, because you're gonna run out of time. Like, oh no, we don't want to sound check. Sound checks usually kind of ruins gigs, and that was the first time I'd ever heard that kind of theory about playing. And it's kind of true too, because we had learned that like sometimes when you have these really great sound checks, the gigs really kind of stink. And sometimes when you don't have a sound check, you just get up there and it's great. And certainly that night, they just got up there. And it was when they were really in their total early thrash period. And they just sort of have, they had like this long hair, and they're just playing this like totally country baked thrash. And the audience at that time was always like hardcore kids. It was all sort of Mohawk kind of like kids, and they came to see this kind of, hardcore band. But they weren't a hardcore band. And while we were playing, I remember we were doing our kind of thing at the time, and all the hardcore kids were sitting there, like these New York hardcore kids going like, play faster, because they wanted to, they wanted to do their thrash. And we weren't. We were playing what we played. So the Meat Puppets come on, and they're just sort of like, who are these hippies, on stage? It's like, this is going to suck. And the Meat Puppets came on, and they proceeded to play every song 20 million times faster than any hardcore band ever played. And these kids were just sitting there like, they didn't respond. Because it was Splitscreen, it was just like so, they were just like, Derek's like, and there was just the way they were singing, it was like, and the one thing I remember distinctly is the microphone for both those guys when they were singing, Chris and Kurt. The threaded microphone was like not threaded very well, so the microphones tend to sort of go around like that. Usually you sort of fix that, tighten it up. They would not fix it for the entire gig. They would just sing like this, and they would follow it around the whole night while they were playing, just like around the microphone, singing, chasing the microphone. I just thought it was the coolest fucked up, the most cool fucked up thing I'd seen at that point. And and then the next super cool thing was like their records that they had put out, like that first album, it was just great. And then they put out this flexi disc in this fanzine called Take It, which was a Boston fanzine. And I remember buying it, and I really wanted to hear what the Meat Puppets were doing on this flexi disc. And what they did is they played this song where the first minute was like super thrashed out Meat Puppets freak out, and then it goes into like this 8-minute kind of Grateful Dead jam, Dead-like jam. And that was like nobody in their right mind was doing some stuff like that, but they did it, and it was so radical, it was unbelievable, and it was totally cool. You know, and then they just made these classic records. You know, Up on the Sun to me is just like, that record just blew my mind. I remember being on tour, we had signed SST at that point, we were just in a van playing every night for like, you know, months, and just going cross country, back and forth. And Up on the Sun was just always there, just like playing that record. It was very momentous.